MEC of Finance, Barbara Creecy, has presented a multi-billion rand budget for the Gauteng City Region, and the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, GGDA, is the agency for the Gauteng Department of Economic Development. The agency is charged with the responsibility to drive economic growth. Saki Zamxaka, the Chief Executive of the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency, is in studio to lay these plans for us. Saki, thank you so much for joining us. Now, I just mentioned the fact that the amount that you're looking at as the GDED has been given a budget of 1.5 billion rand. This is over the period of 2018-2019. What is the role of the GGDA?
So, as you started mentioning, the Gauteng Growth and Development Agency mainly is an agency of government that's there to promote economic growth in the province. There are several ways it can do that. One is making it easy to do business in the province, whether you're small or big, whether you're from South Africa or outside. And the other bit is to do what we call economic infrastructure, building certain industrial hubs that encourage manufacturing, promoting exports from South Africa and Gauteng to the rest of the world. So generally those would be the things that we do to contribute to economic growth.
Basically, Gauteng is the heart of the country in terms of economically. Yes. And as there's already been talks of the province being oversaturated, what challenges are you facing as the Gauteng province?
As you say, Gauteng accounts for more than a third of the country's GDP. More than 25% of South Africans live here. There's good actually in that, because the fact that you have a big population of now, I think, more than 14 million people means whatever you're selling, there's a market for it. So as the economy grows and incomes grow, it can be a good thing. But with growth come other challenges, strain on infrastructure, strain on the roads, traffic, but those also offer opportunities for investment both by public and the private sector. So we're quite happy that you actually have a province that's a big hive of economic activity. What just has to be done is to channel it in the right areas and have government providing support for business to thrive.
Now, in terms of that investment that you're looking for and the opportunities presented by, as you mentioned, infrastructure, we've seen roads literally falling apart with potholes on almost every second road in Johannesburg. How are you dealing with that in terms of ensuring that everything is taken care of investment-wise, and for businesses to strive and be able to make it, whether small businesses or big business?
There's a lot of push generally in government, I think, at different spheres to do a lot more maintenance, because historically we've seen a lot of investment on new projects, but very little attention paid on maintenance. In this province alone, you have 3 key metropolitan municipalities, and some of them have that responsibility. So from a GGDA point of view, we try and coordinate investment by both private and public into the things that matter. So part of ease of doing business for investors is you don't want somebody coming here and stuck somewhere because they hit a pothole. So things must work. You want traffic lights that work, because then you can spend a lot of unproductive time on traffic. But there's different areas where some of these responsibilities fall.
Let's speak about collaborations with the private sector. Can you just touch on a few that you are already working with and dealing with? And what's the, in terms of the Johannesburg region, your vision for the next 5 years or so?
So Lulu, that's the main thing I think the GGDA and many government, state-owned companies or even government departments can do, is to reduce the cost of doing business, make it easy, and support the private sector to do certain things. So there's a couple of examples, big and small, of things we've done. One initiative is with the South African Council of Capital Equipment Exporters. So they manufacture capital equipment, what other people will call yellow plant, whether in mines or in construction or energy. So these are manufacturers who export mainly mining equipment, as I said, or energy or other types of equipment. We partnered with them on doing a skills and training program. We partnered with them to do transformation in the sector and have black industrialists, but also on doing exports. In their last AGM, they said during the period, exports grew by 7%, and these were in tough conditions. So that's been one of the programs for us. It starts at high school and gets into different levels, even in business. So that's one of them. The other pretty successful partnership has been with the business process services sector, where we partnered with them on looking at back office activities, whether it's call centers, legal work. We hosted last year with the sector analysts from around the world who are here to look at what we can do. We've set ourselves a target over 3 years of creating 30,000 jobs. And these are jobs that are not displaced for somewhere in the province or somewhere in South Africa. These are international call centers or different other services that come. So that would be one of the examples of the partnerships we do. The other one in Kliptown, a very active business community formed by local individuals from Kliptown who have said these are the things we've researched. They partnered with a university and they did research about what businesses they think are viable. So naturally tourism is one of those. They're looking at business hubs where they can sell arts and crafts. They have a market that's going on. So it's a community initiative. It's not us going to them and say this is what can work. They've come and said this is what can work, and those need to be supported. There's infrastructure support that government must do. So I'm hoping that in the next couple of months that those would be some of the projects we see getting off the ground, where there's real support on entrepreneurs who are doing things on their own, and all they need is maybe some support on seed funding or infrastructure.
Let's speak about the turnaround time when it comes to funding, for instance, or the support that you speak of, especially for small businesses. What's the turnaround time like? Has there been an improvement where the support, whether it's a Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, for instance, where they go out and give support to small businesses or businesses with potential to grow? Has there been an improvement with regards to turnaround time and and ensuring that these small businesses that are set up and entrepreneurs don't lose out and benefit more as well as their communities?
So that question depends on what sector of the support we're talking about. There's the Gauteng Enterprise Propeller, which is one of the entities under economic development. So they do the direct support to SMEs, and they've been going around looking at what they can do to improve and bring the services closer to communities. Lending to startups and small businesses by definition is difficult and risky. So yes, the timelines still take a little bit long than you would if it was a big corporate, but there's been an attempt to try and reduce them. On our side, often the initiatives we do are industry-based, or they would be, in the case of Kliptown, it's an area that has a potential to grow its own economy, and we look at what interventions we can do. So as a GGDA, often we don't fund one individual business. It would be a sector that we look at, but there is generally monitoring on what the timelines are going to be. The projects that we're doing didn't take long to kick off. We started the partnership, we're actually on the second year with the capital equipment exporters, and it took us, I think, about 3 months to negotiate that partnership. It's a DTI agency that's responsible for exports. The business process outsourcing sector, we started discussions within 6 months. There were already action plans and deliverables, and we came a year later to look at what has been done, and the initial targets had already been exceeded on what were set as job creation targets.
Now, last year there was a roundtable discussion of business people. You had people from Ghana and with Gauteng flagged as the most promising partners a partnership between Ghana and Gauteng, which is the province as a whole. Talk to us about that, and and what has taken place since that roundtable discussion with Ghana, if anything.
So generally, there's been acknowledgement that the intra-Africa trade is far lower than it should be, depending on what figures you look at. Others quoted at 15-16%, but generally there's acceptance that is less than 20%. And other regions in the world have a higher trade than what you see in Africa. So one, we've taken that as an opportunity that there is scope within the continent to trade amongst each other. West Africa and East African regions have generally been growing at rates higher than Southern Africa. So again, that offers opportunity. And we're saying in those, there must be partnerships. You can have South African businesses investing in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Senegal. And you can also have Nigerian businesses or Ghanaian businesses or Senegalese businesses investing here. So there's a two-way benefit that can come out of increased trade. We visited certain markets, so Ghana has generally had a lot of history with South Africa, both political and even administratively. It's easier for people to move between the two countries. Nigeria is a natural partner to South Africa, big market of almost 200 million people, also an economic power. Similar to what East Africa, there's Kenya and Rwanda that are growing at rates higher than us, but also promising on the things that they're doing. So we're seeing these collaborations in the continent as very natural.
Now, your agency prides itself in the successes of the TIH, which is the Innovation Hub. Are you able to give the man on the street an idiot's guide to this initiative?
So the Innovation Hub is one of our subsidiaries of the Innovation Hub, Automotive Industry Development Center, Cornhill, Industrial Development Zone next to the airport, and Newtown. And all of these are focusing on certain specific areas. So the Innovation Hub, as the name suggests, it's innovation. Generally tends to be tech-driven, but innovation is not only just tech. It's based in Pretoria. What we've also tried to do to make it closer and relevant to people is to build what we call Ekasi Labs, which are little innovation hubs in different areas closer to where people live. And that's the way of getting entrepreneurs to get support. Most of the support they'll get at Innovation Hub is non-financial. It's mentoring, it's access to technologies. We have some tenants at the Innovation Hub who are doing research, and the whole idea is to bring an ecosystem that supports entrepreneurs who are in innovation and get them to get opportunities. So these are Ekasi Labs, which there's 10 of them that have been done in the past 2 years, is really to try and bring access closer to where people are.
And what's the reaction been like, especially from young people who want to be entrepreneurs and who are now based at your Innovation Hub, Ekasi Labs?
It's been overwhelming everywhere. I mean, South Africa is full of energy. There's a lot of entrepreneurs who want to do something. What's often the difficulty is reaching out to everybody that's deserving. So they're being rolled out. They may not meet everybody's expectations, but they've done a lot. And part of the challenge is you want businesses that are innovative, the industries of the future that you can support, but there's somebody else who maybe needs just a foot in the door. So it's been balancing, supporting what was the original idea and still allowing access to those that are there. And really, what we're now looking at is, while they may not have been meant to be general, you don't want people turned away. You want, when somebody goes there, to be shown where they can get help, either than them saying this is not what we are about. So people can go there. If their support can come from the Enterprise Propeller, the assistance will be sought from Enterprise Propeller to come closer to them and assist.
Now let's speak about Johannesburg as a city, and you always hear stories about people getting robbed or it's not safe. Yes, business is moving back. There's a cleanup operation, but there's other business that's moving out of the city centre, and I'm told that you are an ardent lover of photography, and the images that you've come across of Johannesburg and the images that have been created. I mean, social media today, you see robberies taking place and just people walking around as if nothing is happening. And we know that there's cameras on almost every street corner in Johannesburg. What's your view, and how are you dealing with such cases where an image of the city of Johannesburg is the fact that you go down to Johannesburg? Yes, there's an aspect of the clean areas, and there's an aspect where you will get assistance as a young entrepreneur or a business person, but there's also that high element of criminal activity. And how are you dealing with that?
Well, I think at different levels, there's been a lot of focus on certain priority crimes, both by the police, the South African Police Service, and the metros, and particularly here in Joburg. And I think that effort on its own starts deterring a little bit of crime. When there was a lot of reporting about crimes from OR Tambo, we saw police intervening, and that seems to have gone down a little bit. But again, if you look at South Africa, and chances of a foreign tourist being attacked are still fairly slim. One attack, we can't say it's acceptable. So whenever there is an incident, it needs the attention. But we're finding that the law enforcement agencies are taking it seriously. One, because we don't want lives lost, but two, it becomes a deterrent to investors, but it also becomes a deterrent to us as citizens to move around freely. We need freedom of movement, but I think there is a lot of focus. There's been appreciation from all the key role players that it's something that a little bit of attention. Joburg is really very inspiring, Lulu, in many ways. I mean, we talked about the visuals. There's a lot of beautiful architecture in town, and with the urban renewal initiatives, I think some of those buildings are going to be great places to live in. You see the buzz of small businesses, and I think when you look at those small businesses, there's a bit that can be done to try and formalize them, which at times may just be proper structures for them to trade in, so that they're not exposed to sun, they're not exposed to rain, and a few other things. So I think there's little initiatives that can be done, including cleaning. Streets being clean encourages people to walk around freely, but also encourages people to say, this is a place I can do business in. I can go and take a walk, I can go to a park. There is really a lot of rich culture and history in the city of Joburg that we can offer to the rest of the world. It's just how we keep it. So back to the point about maintenance, some of it really needs maintenance both by government and some of the private landlords who own buildings in town.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. We have to wrap this up, but thank you so much for joining us. Very quickly, your favorite building in Johannesburg?
Run Club.